Admiral Kang Hyun sat in his command chair aboard the UES Resilience, watching the stars drift past the viewport. His ship was small compared to the massive vessels that belonged to the great alien powers. The Resilience was just a frigate, barely 200 meters long, with basic weapons and shields. It was the only military ship humanity was allowed to have under the Galactic Council's rules. Hyun had been in space for 20 years. He had seen the mighty Vorthak dreadnoughts that could crack planets in half. He had watched the Celestial Dominion's reality-bending warships tear holes in space itself. Compared to those monsters, his little frigate looked like a toy. But it was his toy, and he was proud of it. "Sir, we're getting a distress signal," said Lieutenant Park So-jin from the communications station. Her voice was tense. "It's from the New Soul, Captain Lee Soo-min's transport ship." Hyun frowned. The New Soul was carrying medical supplies to the Kepler sector, where a nasty war was happening between two alien species. Humans weren't involved in the fighting, but they were allowed to deliver food and medicine to the wounded. It was one of the few jobs the Council let them do. "Put it through," Hyun ordered. Captain Lee Soo-min's face appeared on the main screen. She looked scared. Behind her, Hyun could see smoke and flashing red lights. "Admiral Hyun, thank God. We've been captured by Vorthak raiders. They're treating my crew like animals. They say humans make good slaves for the mining worlds." Hyun's hands tightened on his chair's armrests. The Vorthak were one of the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. They looked like giant lizards with sharp teeth and claws. They believed that might made right, and they had enough might to prove it. To them, humans were just another weak species to be used and thrown away. "How many ships?" Hyun asked. "3 cruisers and a dreadnought," Lee replied. "Admiral, I know you can't fight them. Just try to get word to Earth, okay? Tell my family what happened." The signal cut off. Hyun stared at the dark screen for a long moment. His crew was looking at him, waiting for orders. They all knew the truth. One human frigate against 4 Vorthak warships was suicide. The smallest Vorthak cruiser had more firepower than 10 ships like the Resilience. "Sir?" asked Commander Yoon Tae-ho, his first officer. "Should we contact the Council?" Hyun nodded. "Open a channel to the Council emergency frequency." A few minutes later, the cold face of Counselor Zerion appeared on screen. The alien looked like a tall, thin bird with silver feathers and black eyes. He barely glanced at Hyun before speaking. "What do you want, human?" Zerion's voice was bored. "Counselor, human civilians have been captured by Vorthak raiders in Sector 77 Alpha. I request immediate Council intervention." Zerion made a sound that might have been laughter. "Human problems are not Council problems. The Vorthak are a respected member species. If they have taken human property, it is their right under salvage laws." "These are people, not property," Hyun said, trying to keep his voice calm. "The distinction is not important," Zerion replied. "Humans serve the galaxy in the capacity assigned to you. Transport, cleaning, basic maintenance. Military action is not your role. Do not contact this frequency again about minor incidents." The screen went dark. Around the bridge, Hyun's crew was silent. They had all heard stories like this before. When humans got in trouble, the Council didn't care. Humans were servants, nothing more. But Admiral Hyun was older than his crew. He remembered stories his grandfather had told him, stories about the early days when humans first joined the galactic community. Stories that most people thought were just legends. Hyun stood up from his chair and walked to the communications station. "Park, I need you to send a message on the old emergency frequency, the one from the training manuals." Park looked confused. "Sir, those frequencies haven't been used in decades. I'm not even sure they still work." "They work," Hyun said quietly. "Send this message. Operation Sunrise. Authorization code Alpha 77 Tango. Priority 1. Park's fingers moved over her console. "Message sent, sir, but I don't understand." "What's Operation Sunrise?" Hyun didn't answer right away. He was thinking about his grandfather, who had served on one of the first human ships to make contact with aliens. The old man had told him strange stories about secret meetings and hidden preparations. Stories about humans who planned for a day that might never come. "Sir, we're getting a response," Park said, her voice full of surprise. It's not from any ship in the registry. Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was calm and professional. "Admiral Hyun, this is Dr. Park Jinwoo at Luna Base Workshop. Your message has been received and confirmed. Operation Sunrise is now active. All human forces are to maintain normal operations until further notice. Estimated time to implementation, 6 hours." The transmission ended. Hyun's crew stared at him with wide eyes. "Sir," Commander Yoon said carefully, "there is no Luna Base Workshop. I've seen all the official records." Hyun smiled for the first time since receiving Lee's distress call. "No, Tae-ho. There's no official Luna Base Workshop. That's the point. Over." The next few hours, strange things began to happen across human space. Transport ships that had been carrying supplies suddenly changed course. Mining stations went quiet. Even the small patrol boats that humans used for police work seemed to disappear. But the Resilience stayed on course toward the Vorthak raiders. Hyun's crew was nervous, but they trusted their admiral. They had no idea that across 40 star systems, humanity was about to reveal a secret it had kept for 200 years. In the depths of space, far from any star, something large began to move. Then, another something, and another. Ships that had been hiding in the cold darkness between stars slowly came to life. Their crews had been waiting for this day, training for it, dreaming of it. The message had been sent. Operation Sunrise had begun. Admiral Hyun watched the stars and smiled. Soon the galaxy would learn that there was a difference between being weak and choosing to appear weak. Soon everyone would understand that humanity's greatest strength had always been patience. The Vorthak raiders had captured the wrong humans on the wrong day. They were about to discover that the galaxy's servants had teeth. 200 years earlier, Commander Choi Min-ho stood on the bridge of Earth's first interstellar ship, the ESV Pioneer. Through the viewport, he could see the massive space station that served as the Galactic Council's headquarters. It was bigger than Earth's moon, covered in lights and docking bays for ships from 100 different worlds. Min-ho was nervous. This was humanity's first official contact with alien civilization, and everything depended on making the right impression. Behind him, his small crew worked quietly at their stations. They all knew that Earth's future would be decided in the next few hours. "Incoming transmission from the Council," reported Communications Officer Kim Na-rae. The main screen lit up, showing a group of alien beings sitting around a curved table. There was Counselor Zerion, the bird-like creature who would later dismiss Admiral Hyun's request for help. Next to him sat a massive Vorthak general, his scales gleaming under the station's lights. Other species filled the remaining seats, all of them ancient and powerful. "Humans," spoke the Council's leader, a floating jellyfish-like being called the Prime Mediator. "You have traveled far to reach us. State your purpose." Min-ho stepped forward, keeping his voice humble and respectful. "Honored counselors, we come seeking peace and friendship. Earth desires only to trade with your great civilizations and learn from your wisdom." The aliens looked at each other. Some made sounds that might have been laughter. "Show us your military capabilities," demanded the Vorthak general. Min-ho activated a holographic display showing Earth's small fleet, 12 ships in total, all of them tiny compared to alien vessels. Basic weapons, simple shields, primitive engines. "This is all?" asked another counselor, a creature that looked like a walking tree. "Your entire military force?" "Yes. Honored. 1. We are a peaceful species. We prefer exploration and science to warfare." The Prime Mediator's tentacles wiggled in what humans would later learn meant amusement. "Very well. The Council offers Earth membership as Galactic Custodians. You will maintain our stations, transport our goods, and clean our facilities. In return, we will protect you from hostile forces and allow limited trade." Min-ho bowed deeply. "We accept with gratitude, honored mediator." What the council members didn't know was that Earth had been listening to their communications for 50 years before this meeting. Dr. Yoon Hana, working from a secret facility in Antarctica, had cracked alien languages and studied every major war in galactic history. She knew that the Vorthak had destroyed 17 species who had challenged them directly. She knew that the Celestial Dominion turned entire star systems into glass when they felt threatened. She knew that any species who revealed military strength during first contact was either enslaved or eliminated. So humanity had chosen a different path. While Minho played the humble supplicant on the council station, engineer Kim Tae-hyun was already working on Earth's real response to the galaxy. Hidden in asteroid fields and deep space, construction had begun on humanity's secret fleet. The plan was simple: appear weak while growing strong, learn everything while revealing nothing, wait for the right moment to show the galaxy what humans could really do. Admiral Seo Ji-hoon commanded the first secret shipyard, built inside a hollowed-out asteroid in the Kuiper Belt. His workers were all volunteers who had given up their old lives to serve humanity's hidden purpose. They lived in the cold darkness between stars, building ships that no alien sensor could detect. "The stealth coding is working perfectly," reported Chief Engineer Lim Hae-jin. "Even our own sensors can barely track these ships." SEO nodded, watching through the viewport as another completed vessel powered up its engines. It looked nothing like the simple ships Earth showed the galaxy. This one was sleek and dangerous, armed with weapons that had been designed specifically to kill things much larger than itself. The secret fleet grew slowly. One ship became 10, then 100, then 1,000. Hidden bases appeared and empty, star systems camouflaged to look like dead rocks or failed planets. Each base trained crews in tactics that no alien military had ever seen. Scientist Park Yoon-seo developed new weapon systems in a laboratory buried deep beneath the moon's surface. Her team studied every alien ship design, every shield frequency, every weakness in their technology. "They're overconfident," she explained to her assistants. "They've been the strongest species in the galaxy for so long that they've forgotten how to fight smart enemies. They build their ships to fight other, large ships in open battle. They don't know how to deal with small, fast enemies who strike from hiding." Meanwhile, on the surface, humanity played its assigned role perfectly. Human transport ships carried alien goods across the galaxy. Human technicians cleaned alien stations and maintained alien equipment. Human diplomats smiled and bowed and thanked the great powers for their kindness. But every human who traveled in space was also a spy. They memorized alien ship designs, recorded alien communications, and mapped alien military bases. All of this information flowed back to the hidden bases, where humanity's real military leaders planned for a war they hoped would never come. Captain John Min-jung commanded a simple transport ship on the outside, but she was also a trained combat pilot who had studied alien weaknesses for decades. When other captains saw alien warships, they felt fear. When Min-jung saw them, she saw targets. "The Vorthak dreadnoughts look scary," she told her secret crew during a training session, "but they have weak spots. Their shield generators are on the outside of the hull. Take those out, and they're just big flying coffins." Years passed. Humanity's OWAR official fleet stayed small and harmless. The secret fleet grew to 3,000 ships, all invisible, all deadly. Human agents spread across the galaxy, gathering intelligence and waiting for orders that might never come. The great alien powers barely noticed humans except when they needed something transported or cleaned. They certainly never suspected that their servants were building the largest and most advanced fleet in galactic history. Dr. Park Jin-woo, now an old man, stood in the command center of Luna Base Workshop, watching status reports from across human space. Every secret base, every hidden ship, every trained crew was ready. "Sir," said his assistant, Commander Woo So-young, "we've been preparing for 2 centuries. What if the activation order never comes?" Park smiled sadly. "Then our children will continue to serve alien masters, and maybe that's for the best. But if the order does come, if humanity is finally pushed too far, well, the galaxy will learn that choosing to be underestimated is not the same as being weak." On his desk sat a sealed folder marked Operation Sunrise. Inside were the codes and procedures that would transform humanity from servants into conquerors in a matter of hours. Park hoped he would never have to open that folder, but he was ready if the time came. Fleet Admiral Ryu Daun had been waiting in the darkness between stars for 30 years. Her flagship, the HSS Silent Thunder, was completely invisible to alien sensors, hidden in the cold void beyond Pluto's orbit. Around her, 300 other human warships waited in perfect silence. When the message came through on the ancient emergency frequency, she smiled. After 2 centuries of hiding, it was finally time. All stations, this is Admiral Ryu. She spoke into her communications system. Operation Sunrise is now active. Begin Phase 1 immediately. Across 40 star systems, human ships that had been hiding for decades suddenly came to life. Stealth fields dropped, weapons powered up, engines ignited. The galaxy's servants were about to become its masters. Captain Nam Seo-jun commanded the stealth destroyer Ghost of Incheon. His ship had been hiding in an asteroid field near the Vorthak home system for 5 years, watching and learning. Now he had new orders. Target the Vorthak patrol fleet, he told his weapons officer. Lieutenant Cho-Hye-rin, remember, we want survivors to tell the story. Understood, sir. Weapons locked on target. Seo-jun looked at his tactical display. 3 Vorthak cruisers were patrolling near their main naval base, completely unaware that human ships surrounded them. The aliens thought they were safe in their own space. They were wrong. Fire, Seo-jun ordered. The Ghost of Incheon's main weapon wasn't like anything the aliens had ever seen. Instead of energy beams or missiles, it fired concentrated gravity waves that tore matter apart at the atomic level. The first Vorthak cruiser simply ceased to exist, torn into its basic elements in less than a second. The other 2 cruisers tried to run, but more human ships decloaked around them. The Vorthak weapons couldn't even find targets to shoot at. Human stealth technology was too advanced. Within minutes, the Vorthak patrol was destroyed. Only 1 small escape pod survived, exactly as Seo-jun had planned. Meanwhile, Admiral Hyun was approaching the location where Captain Lee's transport had been captured. His little frigate looked helpless compared to the 4 Vorthak warships holding the new Soul. But Hyun wasn't worried anymore. Incoming transmission from the Vorthak flagship, reported Lieutenant Park So-jin. The screen filled with the ugly face of Admiral Gorthex, one of the Vorthak military's most brutal commanders. His scales were dark red with age, and his teeth were stained with the blood of his enemies. Little human, Gorthex growled, you should not have come here. Your transport ship belongs to us now. The humans aboard will make fine slaves for our mining worlds. Release them, Hyun said calmly. This is your only warning. Gorthex laughed, a sound like grinding stone. Warning? You pathetic creature. My flagship alone could destroy 100 ships like yours. You have no weapons that can hurt us, no shields that can protect you. Leave now, or join your friends as slaves. I don't think so, Hyun replied. He nodded to his communications officer. Send the signal. Space around the Vorthak fleet suddenly filled with human ships. They seemed to appear from nothing, materializing, like ghosts. Gorthex's confident expression changed to shock, then to fear. Impossible, he whispered. How many ships do you have? Enough, said a new voice. Captain Nam Seo-jun's face appeared on a split screen next to Hyun's. Admiral Gorthex, you are surrounded by vessels of the human defense fleet. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Gorthex snarled and turned to his weapons officer. All ships open fire, destroy these insects. The Vorthak dreadnought's massive guns spoke, sending streams of plasma toward the human ships. But the plasma passed harmlessly through empty space. The human vessels flickered like mirages, there one moment and gone the next. Phase-shifting technology, Seo-jun explained to the confused Vorthak admiral. We learned it from studying your own battles. When you fight enemies who use solid matter weapons, you develop defenses against solid matter weapons, but we don't use solid matter. The human response was devastating. Gravity weapons tore through the Vorthak shields like they weren't there. Reality manipulation fields twisted the alien ships into impossible shapes. Quantum disruptors made entire sections of the dreadnought simply disappear. In less than 10 minutes, 3 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy were reduced to drifting scrap metal. Only Gorthex's flagship remained, and it was powerless, all systems destroyed except life support. "This is impossible," Gorthex kept repeating. "Humans are weak. Humans are servants." "Humans are whatever we choose to be," Seojun replied. "We chose to let you think we were weak. We chose to serve your empire while we learned its secrets. We chose to wait until the right moment to show you the truth." Captain Lee Soo-min was rescued along with her crew. As they were brought aboard human ships, she stared in amazement at the advanced technology surrounding her. "I had no idea," she whispered to Admiral Hyun. "All these years we had ships like this?" "We've had them for 2 centuries, Hyun replied. "But secrets are only useful if you keep them secret. Today, secrecy ends." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. Human ships appeared at Vorthak military bases, Celestial Dominion outposts, and council facilities. They didn't attack immediately. Instead, they just waited. Visible. Threatening. Impossible to ignore. News of the Vorthak fleet's destruction spread across the galactic networks in minutes. Species that had never paid attention to humans suddenly wanted to know everything about them. Ambassador Wu Jin-young had been humanity's representative to the Galactic Council for 15 years. She was used to being ignored, dismissed, or treated like furniture. But when she walked into the emergency council session, every alien eye was fixed on her. "Honored counselors," she began, her voice carrying none of its usual deference. "Humanity wishes to inform the Council of certain changes in our status." The Prime Mediator's tentacles writhed with agitation. "What is the meaning of this military display? The Council did not authorize human weapons development." Wu smiled. "The Council's authorization was never required. Humanity withdraws from all current agreements effective immediately. Any species that wishes to maintain peaceful relations may negotiate new terms. Any species that prefers conflict." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Well, I suggest you ask Admiral Gorthex how that worked out." Counselor Zerion, the same alien who had dismissed Hyun's plea for help, was trembling. "This is illegal. The Council's authority is absolute." "The Council's authority extends only as far as its ability to enforce it," Wu replied. "I believe recent events have demonstrated the limits of that ability." Around the chamber, the representatives of great galactic powers sat in stunned silence. For the first time in millennia, their comfortable assumptions about power and strength had been shattered. The galaxy's servants had just revealed themselves to be its new masters, and there was nothing anyone could do about it. High Commander Veltar of the Celestial Dominion stared at the tactical display in his war room. 3 of his scout fleets had vanished in the past week, all sent to investigate human space. No distress signals, no wreckage, no survivors. They had simply disappeared. "This is impossible," he told his intelligence chief, Sub-Commander Kilon. "Humans are a servant species. They clean our stations and carry our supplies. How can they destroy entire fleets?" Kilon, a tall alien with silver skin and 6 eyes, looked uncomfortable. "Sir, our analysis suggests we may have underestimated human capabilities. The destruction of Admiral Gorthex's fleet demonstrates technology far beyond what we believed they possessed." Veltar slammed his forearms on the table. "Then we send more ships, bigger ships, the entire 3rd battle fleet if necessary." "Sir," Kalon said carefully, "the 3rd battle fleet consists of 200 vessels, including our largest dreadnoughts. If we lose that force—" "We won't lose it," Veltar snarled. "Humans got lucky against the Vorthak. They probably used some kind of surprise weapon. Once we know what we're facing, they'll fall like any other inferior species." Colonel Park Soo-young received the intelligence report about the Celestial Dominion's fleet movements while sitting in the command center of Hidden Base Alpha 7. The facility was built inside a dead planet in an empty star system. Invisible, 2 alien sensors. "They're sending everything they have," she told her staff officers. 200 ships, including 5 super dreadnoughts. Commander An Jae-ho looked worried. "Colonel, that's a lot of firepower. Even with our technology, those Numbers could be a problem. Park smiled coldly. Numbers only matter if you fight the kind of war they expect. We're not going to line up our ships and trade shots with them. We're going to teach them why humans learn to hunt in packs. The Celestial Dominion's third battle fleet entered what they thought was human space 3 days later. High Commander Veltar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Glory, confident that his overwhelming force would crush any resistance. Scan for human ships, he ordered his sensor operator. Scans show empty space, sir. No contacts on any frequency. Impossible. Intelligence reports indicated major human bases in this system. What Veltar didn't know was that Colonel Park's forces were already there, hiding in plain sight. Human ships could disguise themselves as asteroids, space debris, or even empty vacuum. Advanced holographic systems made them invisible to every type of sensor the Celestial Dominion possessed. "Sir," called the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission. It's from everywhere. The signal is coming from all directions." Colonel Park's face appeared on every screen in the Dominion fleet simultaneously. "High Commander Veltar, you have entered human space without permission. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Veltar laughed. "Human, I command 200 warships. Your entire species couldn't build a fleet this powerful if you had 1,000 years." "You're right," Park agreed. "We couldn't build a fleet like yours. So we built something better." The attack came from everywhere at once. Human ships that had been masquerading as space rocks suddenly came alive. Weapons that bent space itself reached out to touch Dominion vessels. The aliens' shields meant nothing against attacks that bypassed normal physics, but this wasn't like the quick destruction of the Vorthak patrol. Park's forces used different tactics. They would destroy one ship, then disappear before the enemy could respond. They would appear somewhere else, destroy another ship, then vanish again. "It's like fighting ghosts," reported one Dominion captain before his transmission cut off forever. Veltar tried every tactic in the Celestial Dominion's military manual. He spread his ships out to prevent concentrated attacks. The humans hit his isolated vessels one by one. He pulled his fleet together for mutual defense. The humans used weapons that went through multiple ships at once. "How many human ships are out there?" he demanded of his sensor operator. I can't tell, sir. Our sensors detect contacts, then they disappear. Sometimes the same contact appears in multiple locations. It's like they're teleporting." Commander Li Dongmin watched the battle from his stealth frigate, the Digital Ghost. His job wasn't to fight with weapons, but with information. Every Dominion ship was sending data back to their home world, trying to figure out how to fight an enemy they couldn't see or understand. "Jam their communications," he ordered his crew. "I want them cut off from their command structure." But Li had a better idea than just blocking their signals. Using techniques developed over decades of studying alien computer systems, he began feeding false information into the Dominion network. Ships started receiving orders to fire on their own allies. Navigation systems began showing wrong locations. Weapon targeting computers started aiming at empty space. Within hours, the mighty Third Battle Fleet was destroying itself in confusion and panic. Ships fired on their own escorts. Formations broke apart as captains received contradictory orders. Some vessels tried to retreat, only to fly directly into human ambushes. High Commander Veltar watched his fleet die around him. In 6 hours, he had lost over half his ships to an enemy he still couldn't see clearly. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving another transmission from the human commander." Colonel Park's face appeared on screen again. She looked exactly the same as before, calm and professional. "High Commander, you now have 93 operational ships remaining. I'm offering you one chance to withdraw with those survivors." "Why?" Veltar asked, his voice broken. "Why not finish us?" "Because," Park replied, "I want you to go home and tell your people what happened here. I want every species in the galaxy to understand that humans are no longer your servants. We are your equals, and if you try to treat us otherwise, this is what happens." The remnants of the Third Battle Fleet limped back to Dominion space, carrying news that shattered their civilization's confidence. The most powerful military force in their history had been crushed by an enemy they couldn't even see. Similar stories spread across the galaxy. The Nexus Collective sent hacker fleets to break human computer systems, only to have their own networks invaded and destroyed. The Krolic Empire dispatched armies to capture human colonies, only to find empty worlds that turned into death traps. Director Han Mi-jung, head of Human Intelligence Operations, sat in her office reviewing reports from across known space. Every major power had tested humanity's strength. Every major power had failed. The psychological warfare aspect is working perfectly, she told her assistant, Agent Kim Da-won. Fear spreads faster than facts. By the time accurate information reaches alien command centers, the rumors have already done our work for us. 3K. Rumors were incredible. Humans who could walk through walls, ships that existed in multiple dimensions at once, weapons that could destroy stars. Most of it was nonsense, but the aliens had no way to separate truth from fiction. Director, Kim said, what if they unite against us? If all the major powers work together? Han smiled. They won't. They're too afraid and too proud. Each species thinks they can find the secret to defeating us where others failed. By the time they realize they need to cooperate, it will be too late. She was right. Instead of working together, the great galactic powers began blaming each other for humanity's rise. Old alliances crumbled as species accused their neighbors of secretly helping the humans. Trade routes collapsed as everyone became suspicious of human transport ships. The galaxy that had been stable for millennia was tearing itself apart in fear and paranoia. And at the center of it all, humanity waited patiently, letting their enemies destroy themselves while planning for the new order that would rise from the ashes. President Oh Se-jin stood on the observation deck of Terra Station, humanity's new capital in Earth orbit. Through the transparent walls, she could see the human fleet patrolling Sol system openly for the first time in 2 centuries. The massive warships no longer hid in the darkness between stars. They moved proudly through space, their weapons and armor gleaming in the sunlight. 6 months had passed since Operation Sunrise began. The galaxy had been transformed completely. Species that once commanded star empires now sent desperate ambassadors to Earth, begging for mercy and offering tribute. Madam President, said her aide, Secretary Jung Ho-seok, the Vorthak delegation has arrived. They're requesting an immediate audience. Oh nodded. Send them to conference room 7 and make sure Admiral Jang is there. I want them to see exactly who they're dealing with now. The Vorthak delegation was led by General Vexus, one of their few surviving military commanders. His scales had lost their color, and his eyes showed the hollow look of a being who had seen his entire world change overnight. Behind him walked 3 other Vorthak officials, all of them keeping their heads down in submission. Admiral Jang Hyo-rin was waiting for them in the conference room. She had commanded one of the fleets that destroyed Vorthak military bases across their territory. When the aliens saw her, they immediately dropped to the floor in the Vorthak gesture of absolute surrender. Please, General Vexus said, his voice barely above a whisper. We come to beg for mercy. Our empire is broken. Our fleets are destroyed. We offer complete surrender to human authority. President O studied them for a moment before responding. Stand up, General. Humans don't require other species to grovel, though we do expect respect. Vexus struggled to his feet, confusion clear on his reptilian features. For 1,000 years, Vorthak victory had meant the complete destruction or enslavement of their enemies. They couldn't understand why humanity was showing restraint. What do you want from us? Vexus asked. Peace, O replied simply. We want you to stop raiding other species. We want you to free the slaves in your mining colonies. We want you to follow the same laws you'll be helping us write for the new galactic government. That's all? Admiral Jang leaned forward. General, let me explain something. Humans don't destroy species because we don't like them. We destroy species that threaten us. If the Vorthak can learn to live peacefully with their neighbors, you have nothing to fear from us. But our culture, our way of life, can evolve, O interrupted. Or it can die. The choice is yours. Similar meetings were taking place across the galaxy. The Celestial Dominion had already agreed to human terms after losing 3/4 of their military. The Nexus Collective's cyber attacks had backfired so badly that their own computer networks were now controlled by human artificial intelligence. Captain Kim So-ra, now commanding the flagship Terra's Resolve, patrolled the former Dominion space, with a mixed fleet of human and alien vessels. Many alien species had joined humanity willingly once they saw which way the wind was blowing. "Captain," reported her communications officer, Lieutenant Bae Min-jun, "we're receiving a distress call from the Theta Centauri system. Pirate raiders are attacking civilian transports." "Who's pirates?" Kim asked. "Unknown, sir. They're not broadcasting. Any identification?" Kim smiled coldly. "Then we treat them as hostiles. Signal the fleet. All ships combat formation. Time to remind the galaxy that human protection comes with human justice." The pirate fleet consisted of ships from 6 different species, criminals and outcasts who thought the changing galactic order meant they could operate without consequences. They were wrong. The Terra's Resolve and her escorts dropped out of hyperspace directly on top of the pirates. The criminals' ships were old and poorly maintained, no match for human military technology. "Attention pirate vessels," Kim broadcast, "on all frequencies. You are interfering with peaceful commerce under human protection. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." The pirate leader, a Vorthak exile named Grix, responded with typical arrogance. "Human fools, we are free raiders bound by no law. We take what we want." "Then you die," Kim replied and gave the order to fire. The battle lasted less than 5 minutes. Human weapons tore through pirate shields like paper. Ships that had terrorized merchant convoys for years were reduced to drifting hulks. Only Grix's flagship remained, badly damaged but still functional. "This is impossible," Grix screamed over the radio. "You cannot be everywhere. You cannot protect everyone." "Watch us," Kim said simply, and destroyed his ship with a single shot. Kakura rescued merchants were grateful beyond words. They spread stories of human protection across the trade routes, reinforcing humanity's reputation as the galaxy's new guardians. In the reformed Galactic Council chambers, now located on Luna Base, Ambassador Wu Jin-young addressed the assembled representatives. The great powers that had once dominated the council were gone or reduced to minor voices. In their place sat dozens of smaller species who had never been allowed to speak before. "The new galactic charter is simple," Wu announced. "All sentient species have the right to exist freely. No species may enslave, exterminate, or subjugate another. Trade must be fair and voluntary. Disputes will be resolved through mediation, not warfare." A representative from the Healer Collective, a peaceful species that had been oppressed by the Vorthak for centuries, raised her hand. "Ambassador Wu, what happens if a species refuses to follow these rules?" Wu's expression became serious. "Then they deal with the human defense fleet. We prefer peace, but we're very good at war." The message was clear to everyone in the chamber. Humanity had become the galaxy's police force, and they had the power to enforce their version of justice. Dr. Yang Min-seo, now the official historian of the Human Defense Force, worked in her office aboard Terra Station, writing the final chapter of humanity's secret war. "The great deception," she wrote, "was not that humans pretended to be weak. It was that we made everyone else believe that strength meant size, technology meant complexity, and honor meant predictability. For 2 centuries, we watched and learned, while the galaxy's great powers grew comfortable in their superiority." She paused, looking out at the human warships patrolling Earth's solar system. Ships that had once hidden in the darkness now moved openly through space, their presence a promise of protection for allies, and a threat to those who would disturb the peace. Humans understood something that the ancient species had forgotten. She continued typing. "The greatest weapon is not the one that destroys your enemy's body, but the one that destroys their will to fight. Fear of the unknown is more powerful than any energy beam or gravity bomb." On worlds across the galaxy, the changes were visible, everywhere. Former slave colonies became independent nations. Trade routes that had been controlled by military might were now protected by human patrols. Species that had been enemies for millennia were learning to work together under human guidance. It wasn't a perfect peace. There were still conflict, still problems, still species that tested human resolve. But for the first time in galactic history, the strong were protecting the weak instead of exploiting them. Captain Nam Seo-jun, now an admiral commanding the border patrol fleet, stood on his bridge watching a mixed convoy of human and alien ships pass safely through what had once been pirate-controlled space. "It's not the galaxy we dreamed of when we started this," he told his first officer, Commander Huang So-jung, "but it's better than the one we inherited." "Yes, sir," she agreed, "though I sometimes wonder what would have happened if we had revealed ourselves differently. If we had tried diplomacy first instead of deception." Seo-jun shook his head. "The galaxy's powers only respected strength. If we had come forward as equals, they would have seen us as threats to be eliminated. If we had asked for justice, they would have laughed. By appearing weak while growing strong, we forced them to underestimate us until it was too late. And now? Now we're the strongest species in the galaxy, and everyone knows it. The difference is that we use our strength to protect instead of conquer. That's what makes us different from those who came before." In the end, humanity's greatest victory was not the destruction of their enemies, but the transformation of their enemies into reluctant allies. The galaxy learned that humans could be generous in victory, but terrifying to those who threatened the innocent. The species that had once cleaned alien toilets now wrote the laws that governed 1,000 worlds. The maintenance crew had become the management, and under their guidance, the galaxy began to heal from millennia of endless war. Humanity had revealed its secret fleet, and civilizations had begged to be spared. But more than that, they had begged to be led into a better future.